In modern society, electricity plays an important role as an energy source in our daily lives. Especially this summer, as heat waves swept across many European cities and many parts of China, we cannot imagine life without air conditioning, fans and refrigerators. All of these appliances that bring us cool comfort are powered by electricity. Regardless of how safe and reliable the power grid system is, the threat of power outages is always present. There are many reasons for power outages, one of which is the maintenance of the power system. Just like when we need to change a light bulb or repair a switch at home, we often turn off the main power for safety reasons. Similarly, when electricians are repairing electrical equipment, the same principle applies, as they often have to deal with high voltage lines over 10 kilovolts. Enter Zhang Dong, a visionary electrician rewriting the rules of power maintenance. At a vocational skills training base of China's state grid in the coastal Jiangsu province, on a day in 2023, a group of electricians was undergoing training for live line work. Their coach is Zhang Dong, an expert electrician at the Huai'an Power Supply branch of the state grid. With over 20 years of experience in the field, Zhang Dong has made minimizing power outages as an ultimate service, his professional pursuit. During his career, he has achieved an impressive record of over 20,000 live line operations with 0 errors. He has focused on live line work in the power distribution network and has even invented a clamp-type wire puller which can strip the insulation layer from 20 kilovolt insulated wires.
Live line work requires us to perform fault repairs, equipment replacements, and new equipment connections on high voltage lines without cutting off the power. The entire process must be done without interruption to the electricity supply. This work carries certain risks, and during the operations, our live line workers need to overcome their fear and possess good skills and rich experience.
But why does Zhang Dong pursue minimizing power outages as an ultimate service? What challenges and difficulties has he faced in this process? Zhang was born in 1976 into an electrician family in Huai'an City, Jiangsu province in East China. In his childhood memories, his father always carried a large shoulder bag filled with various tools. Zhang recalls that his father was his role model as he grew up.
My father was very busy, sometimes even at night. If there was an electrical issue or a fault at the factory where he worked, he would have to go to fix it. Even in our neighborhood, if someone had a blown fuse, an electrical leak, or a broken appliance, they would call my dad to come and repair it. At that time, I found electricity to be mysterious, and my dad often carried an electrician's bag filled with tools, working like a special forces soldier.
Inspired by his father, Zhang Dong enrolled in a local technical school after graduating from middle school. In 1996, he graduated from the technical school, and the 20-year-old man happened to see that the local power supply company in his hometown was hiring. Having always wanted to work in the electricity industry, Zhang immediately signed up.
I submitted my resume with a "let's give it a try" attitude, and I ended up being accepted. However, since my major was not aligned with the job requirements, I was not assigned to a frontline operational department. Instead, I was placed in the security department.
From his perspective, while the work in the security department was important, it was quite different from the electrical work he aspired to do. Therefore, while performing his duties well, he sought out ways to become an electrician.
I felt that working in the electricity industry without relevant professional knowledge was not feasible. So I enrolled in a part-time correspondence course in electrical engineering. At that time, I had to attend classes in person several times a week, and the commute from my home to the correspondence school involved a lot of back and forth travel. I would take a long-haul coach, which took about 6 hours. I made good use of the time on the coach to study. Gradually, I acquired some knowledge and learned various professional skills.
His commitment and hard work paid off. After 4 years of correspondence course study, Zhang Dong graduated with excellent exam results. And, as he wished, he was transferred by his company from the security to the power distribution department. On his new job, Zhang was responsible for the operation, inspection and maintenance of the power transmission and distribution system in Huai'an City. He eagerly threw himself into the new job.
In 2000, when I first joined the company's power distribution department, there was a lot of frontline work, and the emergency repair tasks were quite heavy. Since I was new to frontline work, I felt both excited and a bit anxious. But I also found the work very interesting because I could truly engage in the maintenance of electrical equipment.
Less than a month into his new position, Zhang Dong faced his first challenge. One afternoon in July 2000, his department received a call for repairs. A distribution transformer had gone offline due to an old and poorly maintained switch, causing power outages in some nearby residents' homes. Since it was the hot summer season, the residents were very upset and demanded that power be restored as soon as possible.
The weather was hot and humid at that time, and the power outage meant that air conditioners and fans couldn't be used. Families with elderly people and children were particularly affected.
Zhang Dong and his colleagues rushed to the scene, and after a careful inspection, they discovered that in order to repair the distribution transformer, they would need to shut down other nearby power supply equipment, which would expand the area affected by the power outage. In the sweltering heat, the surrounding residents had differing opinions upon hearing this news. Those who were already experiencing a power outage urged the workers to hurry up and restore the power. But families that were not affected by the outage firmly opposed the repairs, fearing that their own power would be cut off as a result of the repairs. Faced with this dilemma, how would Zhang Dong and his colleagues make their decision?
The residents at the scene were arguing all along. We also considered whether it was possible to repair the faulty transformer without cutting off the power. However, with our technical capabilities at the time, it was simply not possible. So we had no choice but to shut off the power to carry out the repairs. We just hoped that we could fix the broken transformer as quickly as possible and restore power.
In the end, amidst the residents' disputes, Zhang and his colleagues shut down all the distribution transformers along the line for maintenance. Braving the hot weather, he and his fellow workers worked intensively for an hour and finally resolved the issue. For Zhang Dong, who was participating in emergency repair work for the first time, successfully resolving the issue should have been a rewarding experience. But, faced with the residents' complaints, he felt a mixture of emotions.
To be honest, I felt quite uncomfortable. We did fix the problem, but during the repair process, the residents had to endure the high temperatures due to the power outage. At that moment, I thought about how we could handle similar emergency repairs in the future without cutting off power or minimizing outages, so as to better serve the residents.
Back at his office, his mind was still unsettled. He tried to explore ways to achieve his self-imposed goal.
In
our city, there was no one who possessed the skills of lifeline repairs at the time. First, the operation was very difficult. Second, it carried certain risks. Even if I wanted to learn, there was no one to teach me. Later, our company launched a training program for lifeline work on distribution lines to improve employees' skills and to minimize power outages during equipment maintenance. I immediately signed up, determined to master the skills of lifeline repairs.
In December 2000, at 24 years old, Zhang Dong, along with 5 colleagues, formed a lifeline work team and went to the city of Changzhou to learn lifeline operation techniques for distribution networks. More than 200 kilometers to the south of Huai'an, Changzhou is relatively more prosperous and advanced in economic and industrial development. When Zhang Dong first got involved in the world of lifeline operations, he realized that it was truly a job filled with both pressure and danger.
During that training period, we mainly learned the theory of lifeline work and familiarized ourselves with equipment, including some simulated operations. After a while, we wanted to try performing lifeline maintenance in a real environment. However, our trainer, in order to ensure our safety, did not allow us to do that. So we only grasped some theory and learned a few operational methods on simulated lines. When the training ended, I felt that I was somewhat just talking the talk, but I was eager to carry out an actual lifeline operation.
In order to quickly achieve their aim of doing actual lifeline repairs, Zhang and his colleagues then began a 2-month self-training after returning from their studies in Changzhou.
We started our own training with simple tasks, practicing on simulated lines. We developed detailed training plans. For example, on a certain day, we would train on how to achieve insulation shielding, and we would practice it repeatedly. Once we mastered the skill, we would move on to the next training plan. What was the benefit of this approach? It allowed us to break down a large training task into several smaller ones, which helped reduce our fears and pressure.
After countless lifeline training sessions, Zhang and his colleagues finally mastered the various skills and techniques required for lifeline work. An emergency soon came up to test the results of their training. In May 2001, a dropout fuse in Huai'an was damaged and needed to be replaced. After arriving at the site and conducting thorough inspections and assessments, Zhang and his colleagues decided to use the lifeline work method for the replacement. For them, this wasn't just another repair, it was their first real test in lifeline work. A high-stakes operation where even the smallest mistake could be catastrophic.
At the time, my colleague and I stood in the insulated bucket lift, slowly approaching the power line and the live equipment. To say I wasn't afraid would be a lie. It's only human. But at that moment, I couldn't let myself think about how many volts of high-voltage electricity were in front of me. All I could focus on was the standardized procedure on working safely and on resolving the fault as quickly as possible.
Below, a crowd had gathered, their eyes fixed on the 2 figures suspended in the air. Zhang Dong took a steadying breath, pushed aside the very slight electric dread prickling his skin, and reached out.
I remember when I first started working on the live line, the moment I touched the wire, I felt a very slight tingling sensation shoot through my body. My hands began shaking. But when I looked down and saw all the residents watching, I knew if I backed down now, I might never regain the confidence to perform lifeline work again. So I steadied my breathing, forced myself to stay calm, and gradually the tingling feeling faded away. In the end, I successfully resolved the fault. When my colleague and I stepped down from the insulated bucket lift and removed our protective suits, maybe from the tension or the stifling heat, our uniforms were completely drenched in sweat.
In his first live line operation, Zhang conquered his fears and rose to the challenge, completing the repair mission. This invaluable hands-on experience not only honed his skills in live line work, but also enhanced his confidence and deepened his sense of duty to ensure safe and uninterrupted power supply to each and every household.
From the first live line operation to the 10th and 100th, we accumulated extensive field experience. As our expertise grew, we became unwilling to settle for the status quo and began exploring ways to improve our methods.
Throughout his 2 decades-plus career in the power sector, Zhang Dong has maintained an insatiable curiosity and spirit of exploration. He firmly believes that excellence at work requires not just hard labor, but smart approaches and innovation. In 2013, his company established the Zhang Dong Technological Innovation Studio in his honor, a testament to his pioneering spirit. To achieve the ultimate goal of ensuring uninterrupted power supply, Zhang and his team embarked on a mission in February 2017, developing an auxiliary device for live replacement of dropout fuse cutouts. Dropout fuse cutouts serve as common short-circuit protection switches, functioning as isolation switches while also minimizing power outage scope during circuit failures. However, prolonged use necessitates timely maintenance or replacement. Traditional replacement methods required installing temporary insulated bypass conductors for current diversion before inspection and replacement, a time-consuming and labor-intensive process. A persistent challenge was the difficulty of fastening the bypass conductors, which long troubled electricians.
A dropout fuse cutout is a commonly used distribution equipment with load breaking and switching capabilities. In traditional maintenance operations, there are 2 methods. The first one is opening the dropout fuse cutout, which results in a temporary power outage for the residents supplied by this fuse. The second is using a jumper cable to bypass the fuse cutout directly. However, if the fuse blows during the bypassing process, it may pose safety risks to the workers or equipment. Therefore, I considered whether we could develop an auxiliary maintenance device that shifts from direct bypassing to a switching transfer method using a load break switch, while also enabling quick installation to reduce the workload for operators. This would achieve the dual goals of avoiding power interruptions and improving operational efficiency.
After coming up with this idea, Zhang Dong immediately began developing the auxiliary device. He studied fuse replacement methods used across the country, while also conducting research. But the initial stages of his development work did not go smoothly.
My colleagues and I tried every idea we came up with, testing them one by one, but none delivered the results we wanted. In the early stages of our development, our focus was on finding a way to quickly secure the bypass device. The root cause of the long repair times and high difficulty in traditional maintenance methods was the cumbersome installation of the bypass device. If we could find a way to fasten it securely, enabling load transfer through the load break switch, we could significantly reduce both repair time and complexity. But after extensive testing, we realized most of our initial approaches simply didn't work.
To quickly fasten the bypass device seemed impossible. Thus, Zhang Dong abandoned his approach and sought a breakthrough from a different angle.
What was the new idea? Think of it like repairing a bridge. Initially, my approach was to keep traffic flowing normally during maintenance, but that made repairs far more difficult. The new solution was to temporarily build a simple bypass bridge nearby, ensuring uninterrupted traffic flow, or in electrical terms, maintaining normal circuit operation while replacing the dropout fuse cutout.
With the concept clarified and the direction set, Zhang immediately began developing the auxiliary bridge device. After nearly a year of exploration and technical refinement, he and his team successfully created an auxiliary device for replacing dropout fuse cutouts under load. This breakthrough enabled live line replacement of distribution transformer dropout fuse cutouts, significantly expanding the scope of live line maintenance operations. For Zhang Dong, every light switch represents a promise, a commitment to keeping the power flowing no matter what. Over a period of more than 20 years, what began as a young lineman's white-knuckled first encounter with live wires has evolved into a revolution in power reliability.
With this auxiliary device, each replacement of dropout fuse cutouts reduces outage time by about 80 minutes. For a transformer with a rated capacity of 400 kilowatts, this means we can avoid power interruptions and maintain supply of over 400 kilowatt hours per replacement. Based on historical data, my colleagues and I perform about 300 dropout fuse cutout replacements annually in Huai'an City. This innovation allows us to reduce total outage time by about 400 hours each year.
The numbers tell only half the story. Behind each statistic are hospital ventilators that never stutter, refrigerated medicines that stay stable, and students studying under uninterrupted lights. Zhang's obsession with uptime transformed from professional pride into a personal mission. Power isn't just a utility, it's a lifeline. The spark came from frustration. Why risk lives on live wires when machines could do it safer? Why accept outages as inevitable? In 2020, Zhang Dong turned these questions into action by establishing China's first integrated power robotics center, a nerve center where R&D, training and operations converge under one roof. Under Zhang's leadership, his team tore apart conventional wisdom. Through countless prototypes and sleepless nights, they reimagined the robotic maintenance arm from its core. The breakthrough came when they shaved the device's weight from a cumbersome 60 kilograms to a nimble 23 kilograms, lighter than a suitcase, yet strong enough to handle 10,000 volt lines with surgeon-like precision. On a crisp December day in 2020, Zhang's team made history in China. Their robotic system autonomously installed grounding rings on live 10 kilovolts double-circuit vertical lines, a task so dangerous that manual attempts had resulted in numerous close calls. The secret, a brilliant fusion of satellite-assisted centimeter-level positioning and smart torque control that let machines work where humans dared not. For his contributions to the power industry, Zhang Dong was honored as a model worker of Jiangsu province by the provincial authorities in 2021. A year later, he received the prestigious National May 1st Labor Medal, one of China's highest honors for workers. Today, he remains on the front lines of power supply systems, using his tools and professional dedication to keep millions of homes illuminated.
Modern society depends on electricity across all industries. As a power system worker, ensuring reliable electricity for residents is my duty, and I strive to deliver satisfactory service. From the early days of outage-based repairs to today's lifeline operations, I'm proud to have been both a participant and a witness to this progress. As a child, I dreamed of becoming an elite Special Forces electrician like my father. Now, I'm committed to being that kind of professional. Though I may not achieve the impossible, I give my all every day, advancing step by step with technical expertise.
With that, we conclude this edition of Footprints. Thanks for listening. I'm Bob Jones. If you're interested in hearing more about the lives of ordinary but incredible people in China, follow us on your favorite podcast platforms. Just key in Footprints and you can find more stories anytime, anywhere. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.